her body's conditioned for swimming.
Yeah.
She can swim back and forth forever.
That's so crazy.
But like, she's not the typical swimming type.
Yeah.
You wouldn't look at her and think, oh yeah, that's a swimmer.
Yeah.
But that's what she's trained her body for. So I think the progress is slow for sure.
Yeah.
But I think if you just stick at it, you'll go 2 laps, then you'll go 3.
Yeah.
Then you'll go 4.
Yeah.
And before you know it,
bro,
you're swimming. You're about that life.
Yeah. That's dedication. Like, you literally have to.
Do you know what I was saying to someone the other day? You have to get comfortable and almost learn to like being crappy at something. Like, I've worked really hard at that because I hate being crap at stuff. But convincing myself that I like it. I like being crap.
Yeah.
I like being new at something and learning from the beginning. I think it's something that it's definitely helped me a lot.
That's so good.
In terms of learning, because when you start out as a kid, whatever it is, whether you play football or basketball, like it was in my case, when I first started playing basketball, I was trying to do what I saw on NBA Jam. On TV.
Absolutely. And one shows.
And one, exactly. And I made myself look like a mug.
Yeah.
But you keep doing it and you start to, you pull off a little trick.
The practice. The practice.
Then you
ball
get good.
handle. Yeah.
So I think, for me, it's trying to remember what it was like as a kid, being crappy at something and getting good, kind of looking forward to that process.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I just, sometimes I feel like the older you get, the less the elasticity for mistakes. You're like,
there's less wiggle room.
Exactly. You're more like, I don't have time for this shit. Like,
it is true though. We get time poor. As we get older. We get very time poor.
This is the thing, right? Someone said it, like, when you're younger, it feels like time never, like the day's never going to finish. It just seems so long. When am I going to be this age? When am I going to be that?
Well, it's like when your parents would say, like, in 5 minutes. 5 minutes used to seem like a lifetime.
For lifetime. Absolutely. Like, you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm ready to go.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Now if someone tells you 5 minutes, you're like, nah, give me 20.
Give me 20.
It's so crazy.
It is true.
It's so crazy.
I have a theory behind that.
Yeah.
I actually ran it past a time expert. Part of the reason why I think that is because when you're younger, your milestones are like your birthday, summer holidays, Easter holidays, Christmas holiday. You've got like maybe 4 major events in your year. Start of school. That's like all of those, it's like maybe 4 or 5 major things that you look forward to every year.
Yeah.
As you get older, those milestones get bigger. You have more people's birthdays to mark.
Yeah. Weddings.
You have more weddings, things to look forward to that are big occasions. And the more you count them, the quicker the year goes. Because you're going from, I've got to wait 6 months for this next big thing. Now it's like next week I'm actually going to a big event. The week after that I'm traveling for a shoot. I'm marking my year used to be like 5 things. Now it's 5 things a week, 5 things a month sometimes.
You see that?
And I think that's why time goes faster.
I 100%, 100%.
Just a theory.
No, it's a great position actually, because it's my ex-boss was one of the people that said that to me. There was one time we were at the platform in Waterloo, and I was like, and he's like, oh, it's Friday, it's 6 o'clock. No, it's like 7 o'clock. He's like, listen, I'm going home, because he lives in Salisbury. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go home too. And he's like, listen, you're a young man. What are you talking about? You're gonna go home? Like,
are you done?
Yeah, like, I'm like, yeah, like, some of my friends are out, but to be honest with you, I'm too tired. He's like, listen, he's like, don't do that. He says there's some people that have exactly what you're talking about. They're like 4 or 5 things that they look forward to. Some of it is like, sports, their sports teams and going to watch the sports teams, going home and, being with their family, that summer holiday with the kids or whatever, Christmas with the family, and one other thing, right? So those 5 things, exactly as you sort of pointed it out, those are the things that they do every year that makes life sort of whatever. But when they reach the end of their life, they realize that they haven't done a lot. And life, it feels like they've wasted their life. But if you are that person that said, it, I wasn't going to go to that place. And then I went and this happened. I had a crazy moment, I met this crazy person, this happened. And then we traveled to this place and did this crazy thing. You do all of those things. This person that has 5 and you that has had 50 of all of these different crazy things that you've done throughout your life. When you look back at it, life seems so much longer. You've lived so much more. Yes, you filled it. Yeah. Exactly. You've lived so much more, which is I was just okay, I'm going out. Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Devoted Creators Podcast. Today I have a special person, as always, and I'll let him introduce himself, but I'm very, very grateful to have you here, Kaye. So for the purposes of our audience, could you introduce yourself and tell them what you do and I guess, who you are?
Yeah, great. Well, I am Kaye Sotomi. First, John, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I'm a big fan of you. It's been a hot minute. I've known you for a hot minute, and the evolution of the work that you've done, and that's incredible. Kaye Sotomi is my name. As I said, I am founder and CEO at Chop Chop London. My journey is quite a crazy one, to be honest with you.
We're going to get into it.
We'll get into it. So, the truth is, for me, I'm here appreciating the opportunity to sort of share with your community and, chop it up with you, bro.
Let's go. Okay, so where did it start for you? How did you get started in London? Because you're not from here, right?
No.
So where did you arrive from?
No. Okay, so first I was born in Nigeria. Lagos is home base, first base. Moved to the States, Texas, where I spent sort of towards just before my teenage years, all the way unto 21, and then moved to London. And went straight to university in Cardiff University.
Nice.
Didn't shag a lot of sheep there. So don't ask.
You didn't pick up the accent either.
I didn't, luckily. Jesus Christ, man.
I would have Nigerian, Welsh, American accent could be a bit of a weird combo.
It would have been terrible, bro. I mean, I would probably be alone somewhere in the Shires, maybe just duck down. But no, majored in politics and philosophy there. Graduated, moved to London. It was tough as
it's not an easy place to get started.
It's not because it was like the 2008 recession. Yeah. When I graduated, so it was f***ing crazy. I went to California to hang with my brother in San Francisco. I thought, I was gonna stick in Cali and do some stuff. But I had done some stuff when I was at uni. I'd run hip hop events and stuff like that. And I really wanted to manage. I wanted to work in music. I wanted to be, I wanted to sort of coordinate events and work with artists and stuff like that. And I kept getting this feeling that I needed to do this because I'd done it at uni in Cardiff, and it was quite successful, called Aesthetics Hip Hop.
Nice.
And then, but then I met a couple artists. One artist who's huge right now, and was nobody back then. Yeah, Anderson .Paak.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. I met him at a bar in L.A. called Zanzibar, and he was an artist called Breezy Lovejoy.
I'm glad he changed his name.
Yeah.
Not so sure about that name.
Yeah. But his name is Brandon Anderson, so he's just literally just gone with the, and I really thought, this guy's, he's got so much talent, and I was like, okay, cool. And I met this lady who read my poem randomly while we were having dinner, and was like, oh, bro, you need to be doing this stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm moving to London. I'm moving back to London to pursue this. But yeah, I went in to pursue it, ran out of money, had to get a job. And yeah, I got slaved into the hustle of a 9-to-5, trying to put food on the table in a recession.
So what was the retail job?
So no, I didn't do a retail job. I actually went in and I worked in business development, but I was selling ads, for magazines and stuff like that. So it was pure sales. Get on the phone, bang shit out, sell. Oh my God, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like I sucked hard at it. Like when they hired me, they thought, oh man, you're going to kill it, because in person, I got it.
Yeah. You can connect to people.
Exactly, right? And I hadn't recognized that about me at that time, right? I hadn't recognized that about me. I just thought, yeah, I got this, whatever, you're faking it to make it.
Of course.
Until you make it and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just, the graft, man. I did it all. I went into sales there. Then I thought, okay, shit, I'm not cracking it. I'm not making it happen here. There were guys that were doubling my commission. I was like, Jesus Christ, like I didn't realize I was this bad. And then I went into health and fitness, because at that point I personally started getting myself into, I read a book from a guy called Stephen Covey.
Okay.
And he writes a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't read it,
incredible
but
book. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things.
Incredible book. But anyway, he there's one thing that he left me with that stuck, which was focus on the things that are within your sphere of control. At the time I was worrying about everything. I was worrying about, was I going to get a job that was decent? Was I ever going to get to my my peak position, my peak, what I had hoped for myself after graduating uni? Was I ever going to make it happen with some of the artists and the stuff that I wanted to work on? There were so many things that were outside my sphere of control, because the economy and the market was just so f***ed up. And I just wasn't there, you know? I just wasn't there, So he said, I picked that up and I said, okay, cool. What are the things I can control? I can control my fitness. Okay. I can control reading books. I can control getting my confidence up. I can do some of those things. I can prepare better for jobs that I want to get to. I can think about where I want to go and then start working towards those things. So it's like, okay, cool. Whether or not a person gives me a job or not is not, because if I walk in that room and I know that I've prepared my best to get that job and I didn't get that job, I'm calm with it.
It's not for you.
It's not for me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I know that, and that's the most important thing. So it was that moment that then said, okay, cool. And I was like, all right, it, I'm going to go. So I started doing fitness. I started working on myself.
You were in great shape, by the way. Hope you don't mind me saying.
Bro.
You look like a Spartan back then.
Bro.
You look great now, but...
back then was,
this guy was like... like, Usher can take a seat.
Bro. Right there, there were a few people on the planet that had the same physique, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that was no steroids, nothing. That was just hard work, grit, grind, work.
Just out of curiosity, how many times a day were you working out?
I mean, to be honest with you, I would do, in a week, I'd probably train about 10 times.
10 times a week?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I would at least do double sessions 3 times a week.
How long are we talking? An hour, 2 hours?
Oh, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. If I did boxing sessions could go up to 2 hours. If I was just doing weights, then, it's an hour and a half. Yeah. Warm up, cool down, do all of that shit. But yeah, it was
What were you eating like?
I was very strict with my diet. There was no sugar in my, I cut that shit out. There was no sugar. I'd allowed myself to eat carbs once a day. In the mornings, I would always just have like eggs, and leafy salads. Lunch, I would have but it had to be complex carbs. So I didn't eat any white rice or any of that stuff. Oh man, I didn't give my body a lot.
Doesn't sound like fun.
No, bro. Yeah, but chicken and shit like that, like fish and all of that stuff, meat, had tons of it. And then dinner would just be, again, leafy salads and chicken or fish or whatever, right? but good portions, you know. But yeah, because my body was metabolizing it so quickly. Yeah, but it was crazy, bro.
Yeah, that was intense.
It was intense.
It was a great time, though.
It was a great time.
So, sorry, you were saying before I interrupted and started talking about your body.
I like that.
Didn't mean to objectify you.
I like that.
But you were focusing on the things you could control. Going for jobs, trying out some stuff.
Yeah.
What was next?
Yeah. So when I realized that I had to control my sphere, I had to focus on things within my sphere of control. That's when I went and started, you know, getting myself into great shape. And then I realized, okay, actually, I'm enjoying this, you know. And I'd heard, you know, if you enjoy what you do, you won't work a day in your life, or, you know. So I was like, you know what, actually, I'm enjoying this process, and maybe I need to be closer to the process. And, you know, so I went into fitness, and, you know, I worked at Soho Gyms, you know, as a business development manager at the time. But as part of the perks of the job, I had access to the gyms. I had all of that stuff. They paid for me to get my PT license and go through that as well, which was great. You know, I met some great people and ultimately met my boss, the person who moved me into a new industry, which was the renewables and sustainability industry that, you know, that I went onto after I left health and fitness, because I realized that health and fitness, you know, I think I've always had an entrepreneurial flair.
Where do you think that you got that from?
It might just be the Nigerian in me, or it might just be, you know, that sense that, you know, in the States as well, you know, that everybody's just on it, like just on the grind.
Yeah. There's definitely something significant about American culture.
Yeah,
it's very it's all about go getting.
Yeah,
you don't just sit on your hands and wait for a handout. No. It's like, I'm going to make this happen.
Go, you got to go for it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And it's a lot more encouraged, right? So I think part of that was just me, like, really trying to lean into that sort of aspect. But I've always had that. I also think it might just be also because I'm an only child from my mom and my dad directly. So I've always had to find ways to make things happen. I've always had to be creative.
Yeah.
And I'm also dyslexic.
Fair.
So, you know, when you're dyslexic, you don't, you know, you have to find ways to get around things, because, you know, it wasn't a thing. Like, you know, you were either dumb or,
unfortunately,
you know, exactly, unfortunately, right?
So what you're saying, you had to find ways to mask
I had to,
your struggle.
Yeah, I had to find ways to mask my struggles, right? So I think that opened up a lot more creativity in my mind in terms of how to get things and you know, find opportunities. I think that's the core thing, is just looking for opportunities and ways.
I mean, that might also have some contributing factor into why you developed such a good way of speaking with people. Because verbal communication, you're happy and you're much more comfortable.
Yeah,
but reading and writing is a different thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. So leaning into that, like, I'm so grateful that I can speak to my iPhone. And it writes my shit.
Change everything.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, writing, I used to be so worried about writing, because like chicken scratch, you know. And then, you know, now when I go to meetings, I got the iPad, so I'm just like, okay, yeah, you know, we could type this shit out. Let's do it for days, right? You know, spellings are a problem, you know. But anyway, so I leaned into health and fitness because, yes, you know, it was something that I wanted to get into.
Why'd you walk away from it?
At the time, even though so every job I've had, I've always had an entrepreneurial sort of approach to it. Like, I never go into a job thinking to myself, and I think that's part of because I started reading all these books super earlier on about, you know, just self-help books, you know, whether or not it was Robert Greene or Stephen Covey or Malcolm Gladwell.
Love Gladwell.
You know, right? You know, so it was understanding some of those core things that allowed you to sort of, you know, be a lot more competitive or you know, forge your own future in the way that you had hoped or whatever. You know, so that focus was like, okay, get into the mindset of this job is good, but I want to create another revenue stream, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get something else. And also, you're building a brand, although you're inside a brand.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to think about myself as, brand K in this. And in the organization, you have to, so in organizations, there's they say networking outside in the organization is as important as networking inside the organization.
Yeah.
Because you have to, that's how you get influence and you get things done a lot quicker than most people that don't have influence in the organization, right? So, so a lot of those lessons you learn super early and you start to adjust yourself. So adapting to fitness, when I got in, I worked with modeling agencies.
Yep.
We created Casting Edge Boot Camp, worked with models to get them into shape. Some of them went on to, actually, one of the models I worked with, Shay, went on to do Victoria's Secret, and George and a few other people, went on to get signed and did big jobs and stuff like that. So, but for me, it was a means to an end. The only way, I like scale. I don't do small.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My mind is,
what's the ceiling? How high can we go?
Yeah, how high can we go? Let's try it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like thinking narrow was not necessarily, I wanted to, I guess the idea that Michael Jordan can be asleep and he's still making money. I love that idea. So I'm like, okay, how do I get to that place?
You want a brand that's working for you when you're asleep.
Yeah. How do I make money while I'm on holiday? How do I make money while I'm thinking about that, right? And it's not money for the sake of it, but it's equity.
Yeah, I hear that.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying what I'm looking for is equity. That thing that allows me to build out bigger and better than I am and pass on generations, whatever, right? It might not start for me, but hopefully it might not be completed with me, but hopefully it will. I started the whatever it is, the catalyst. I was the catalyst for someone else within my family or within whatever my immediate sort of cell, if I eventually have a kid or whatever, would then be able to sort of take that on and do whatever with it. So, so that's kind of how, when I got to the end of the journey for fitness, I was like, oh man, there's no scale here.
Unless you were to open a gym brand.
Except I was to open a gym brand. But I knew the margins in fitness were so small. And, the reality is that I would have preferred to do like custom fitness, and everybody was like, you're so good at this that you need to be doing this. And I realized one of the problems that you find with scale is if people like you, you're the one that they like.
I struggle with that a lot. Because how do you grow a business when the business is you?
Thank you. Exactly. Yes.
So how are you navigating that?
Yeah. So you gotta. The most important thing is you gotta do what the businesses that have been super successful at franchising have done. You gotta create your own secret sauce, and then you gotta partner up, and create a sauce that allows. Or you create a business, or you have a product or service that is agnostic to you. Because yes, you can be the father of the thing and push it out, and that's why people run to it initially. But if you're the be all and end all of it, you're never going to have a brand that scales. So I was like, okay, I can't do this. So I looked at two industries. I was like, energy and technology. Those industries are going to be relevant forever.
And when were you saying this?
This was 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good time.
We had some good times then.
I do think 2018 might be one of my favorite years of all time. There was a special, I don't know what it was, but 2018 was a very special year.
It was,
But
every
year since then has been the best year of my life. So this is currently the best year of my life.
Growth. I love that.
Scale.
I love that. Yes, kid.
But, sorry, I keep interrupting.
Yeah.
So 2018, you're thinking energy, technology.
Yeah. So in fact, before then, probably around 2017 was when I was thinking about this. And Yeah, I thought, okay, energy, and this is one of the powers of putting things in the universe, and also just being positive about, being clear about what you're trying to accomplish, and then start looking into how you're going to get in.
Yeah.
Because my friends who are engineers will tell you that they were blown away when they heard that I had gotten into one of the largest sort of renewable energy and infrastructure companies in the world. It's like, how the did you do that?
This guy.
Yeah, like really, you were in fitness, bro. Like, how did you do that? And, you know, and ultimately I just said, you know, the core thing is I'm business development, and that's transferable. I'm not in fitness. You know, my skill set is transferable. You know, so what the skill set that's required to be successful is the same. The product is different. You know, so what I got to do is I got to learn the product. I got to learn the process. I got to learn, you know, the acronyms. I got to do all those things, right? You know, but the core, the core thing to be successful in any business development type role or key account management type roles, these things are the same and symbiotic as across all sectors.
What would you say some of those things are?
People management. You know how to manage people. You're very clear about what you're trying to get done. You are excellent with client relationship management, and you're building that. You have a thirst for knowledge, and you're keen to sort of understand what people are asking for in the room. Like, there's a lot of people that want to be heard in the room, but are not listening, you know. And, you know, your ability to listen and then decipher what the customer has actually asked for is so much more important than you trying to sell your product.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what is my problem? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to fix that. In the meantime, you're just thinking, I build house, or I'm a repairman. I want to fix the roof. That's what my business does. But what you haven't thought about is the client relationship there, right? My job is to hear that bit.
Do you make sure that the concerns of that customer are met in full, not just the kind of top line?
Yeah, the top line is always the top line, but there's always that thing that gets it across the line, because a lot of these things you're bidding for jobs and projects, and you're not the only person in the room, you know, and it's not price sometimes. Sometimes it's price.
Most of the time it's not.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's definitely trustworthiness, and it's whether or not, you know, I'm able to continue to build a relationship with this person moving forward, right? You know, so you have to take that approach, and that's kind of, you know, some of the things that I got good at, and again, I feel like it was just part of it was being an only child from my mom and dad, having to navigate all these things, be good with people very early for survival, you know, then later on recognizing it, adapting it into sort of real world situations, reading books, trying to understand those situations. Being a student of politics and philosophy also helped in terms of critical thinking.
I can imagine, yeah.
You know, so some of that sort of evolved into all of that process.
I guess a lot of that is understanding causal relationships. You know, what are the outcomes of this particular moment in time? Who are the big players? What were their roles?
Yes.
I can imagine that you would have picked up a lot from that.
100%.
What else did you pick up from working in energy?
Oh man, bro, I picked up a lot. You know, I had a great boss, you know, Keith, and you know, eventually we had a moment at the end, you know, which wasn't great, but you know, we're friends again, you know. But you know, I had a great relationship with him. You know, one of the things that he stared me in and challenged me very quickly, very, very quickly. I don't think he did it intentionally, but by virtue of him putting me almost on a pedestal as his protege, brought a lot of focus.
That's a lot of pressure.
A lot of focus, right? You know what I'm saying? And that focus then meant that I had to step into situations, positions that naturally, you know, there were 2 or 3 people ahead of me in our division in the company that should have been in that position. But the boss, the CEO of the company, always wanted me to step in for him because he was a larger-than-life character, very charismatic, super smart, quick on the response, all of those things.
Yeah.
But so, technologically and engineering, from an engineering perspective, really good at what he did, but also amazing at people management, right? Which is, super important. But in renewable energy and sustainability, because I worked with big Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies to think about how they would reduce their carbon footprint, on the planet, meet legislative sort of regulations around CO2 emissions and reduction of that. And then ultimately, where the energy challenges that the UK was having and reducing their energy costs and things like that. So, but the people that ultimately made those decisions was C-suite, right? It was never an energy manager or an ops manager. It was the CEO, it was the CFO, and it was the operational director, right?
Yeah.
Okay, those are so the CFO would sign off, but the CFO cared about brand. Sorry, the CEO cared about brand. The CFO cared about numbers. The COO cared about resource.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that I learned very quickly, So what are you, when you're in the right audience, when you're speaking to different people, you need to do the research and understand who am I going into a room with and what do I need to listen for and what do I need to sort of help them understand before I leave that situation. So he, working so close with him, I learned a lot about some of those things. He would do something, he'd do things that almost brought it right back to simplicity. Yeah. And people like to complicate things.
All the time.
Me, man. God damn it. Like to complicate things, make it seem bigger than it is, make you seem smarter than you are, and all of that. Well, nobody gives a shit about that. Yeah. We're all trying to just get to simplicity as quickly as we can because the simple things in life are the things that we enjoy the most.
Yeah.
So, I say to people, when you come into your studio and you switch on the lights, you have no idea how that happened. From the national grid through to the transformer, through to the little powerhouse that you have in the building that has powered up the lights, and you don't care about that.
No.
The simplicity. Thank you. Does it work? And that's the same process. People don't want to know the details and the minutia in what the process is. Just give me a solution that works in the most simple way that you can. Simple, right? And I got that, right? And that's what he would do. He would do simple things like he would write on boards, and he was so good. And this is one thing I have to learn at some point, because if you're able to draw, by the way, that is another thing that opens up a newer pathway for communication that is absolutely insane. And I think it's probably one of the best ways of communicating, that because as children, that's how we learned. Drawing and
pictures.
Things like pictures was the first things. And even now, video content and all these things are things that we enjoy the most, and he would do things, like explaining something so complex, but he would do it as, one time he did it, I was watching this CEO of a huge landlord, property owner. I swear to God, their portfolio is probably about $6 billion in the UK. Anyway, he sat there in this room, just me, him, and this guy, and he draws, this is the first contract, this is the other option, here's how we will introduce it, and then puts a circle around it, and we will tie it up. You know what he did there? A smiley face. Bro, the man's face, like his smile was from here to here, bro.
That's hilarious.
Me too. I was like here to here, and I was like, the simplicity of that process that he very clever, right? So for me, again, learning simple things like that, just about how, simplicity is the most important things for people to understand about a process. And how you can sort of make things as simple as possible. I say simplicity is not the absence of detail. It's the ability to make something otherwise complex appear simple.
Right?
That. And that's the magic that I got working with my boss, like having that journey in energy. But it also gave me, I mean, that was when I started doing my first major speaking gigs, you know, speaking to whole major conferences about renewable energy and our mission and our plan as an organization. Like, he put me on that platform that then made it easy for me to go on and do more of these types of things, which is crazy.
How did you find the speaking world? Because it is, I mean, when I first started getting asked to even just be part of panels or give talks, like, so my university, I think, was probably the first organization that ever reached out to me to go and talk about how I became a journalist and what it's like in the real world as a journalist. And I'm sure, maybe, actually, I don't know, maybe you don't. I had major imposter syndrome, like standing in front of this room of teenagers trying to tell them about the future. And like, why am I haven't figured it out. Why am I here telling these people what it's like? It might be completely different for them. I never felt, and even now when I do panels and stuff, I never quite feel like I'm supposed to be the person saying stuff.
I love, you see, two things there is, one is, it's super important the humility allows you to prepare. You know, that's how I look at it. When you stay humble in that process, you almost want to make sure that you give something, you yourself, or educate yourself through that process, even if you know, when you have that thought. That's number one. The second thing I believe in that situation is, the reality is when you think about it, everybody's still figuring out their own shit.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what you learn as an adult.
We're
all making it up.
Yeah, everybody. Like, honestly. So when you realize that, it's so much easier, and it's so much easier to just accept that actually I'm here for a reason, and some of the other people that were here given this opportunity are not better. Yes, they might have done more, might have been more accomplished, or whatever the situation. But you have an opportunity to give your own unique perspective, which is also super valuable, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
No, bro. I'm telling you. It's, I mean, the speaking, I mean, the first time I did a speech, again, uni sets you up for that because, every other week you had to do
your presentation,
right? You had to speak in front of your cohort and talk about an idea or that particular thing or whatever the situation that you guys, the topic that you were talking about that for that particular week or whatever the situation. So that was one of the first ways that talking in small groups and stuff like that. But I think my first ever full on speaking gig that I was myself was my sister's wedding.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Like a family occasion?
Family occasion.
How come?
Okay, so it's my sister's wedding, and Mobs, and she is, I'm not going to say all the things that happened on that day because someone else might watch this. I don't want to get this on by my family, but my dad's passed away. So yeah, when we were super young. So naturally he would have done the toast and stuff like that, and my older brothers are there and stuff like that. But my sister, she's always just seen something in me. I have no idea how she noticed it or whatever, but she asked me, she said, I want you to do the toast that Dad would have done. Which was huge.
That's an honor.
That's
also, again, a lot of pressure.
And I'm like, at this point, my older brothers are there. They, like, you guys are there. Why aren't you guys doing this?
Yeah.
Right? I'm the only brother. And my other older brother who's, he was not even scheduled fully to speak because he wasn't 100% sure that he was going to make the wedding.
Yeah.
And then he made it work. And so they just gave him a slot to speak very briefly. And but let's just say the speeches weren't going as well as everybody had hoped. So my cousins are like, I remember my cousin Femi saying, listen, Kaye, it's
You're
up
up.
to you. It's up to you, bro.
You got to save us.
It's up to you, bro. But I think, up until that point, that concept of, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, had been something that I've been living with. And, so I had written the speech, but also just prepared something short that I wanted to say from the heart, and then I did it, and I spoke, and I read these things out, and my sister was crying, and
amazing.
Everybody was like, wow, this is just amazing, and whatever. So it's like, okay, that was the first, like, whew, like, oh my God, I remember the feeling was like,
the relief.
First it was the relief. I was like, Jesus Christ, give me a drink, but after that, it was like, okay, great. But, in the company, when I moved to Bouygues, where I was doing the renewable energy and sustainability piece, there was a major conference, a UK-wide conference that the company has, and this conference was at South Bank University.
Oh, yeah.
And they hired a whole lecture theater. I think it must have had over 300 or 400 people in there. And, this, it was more than that, maybe closer to 700, I can't remember. But anyway, lots of people. And it was my boss that was supposed to do because he's the head, he's the CEO of our division.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a major conglomerate company. It's $36 billion a year turnover business. Lots of acquisitions.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big business, right? So lots of MDs and lots of segments and stuff like that. Anyway, so everybody is bringing their, has their own divisions, and all of these guys are talking about what their divisions are doing and what their focus is and stuff like that. Our division, my boss is the man. He was a CEO at the age of 29. Like, he was already bossing it. So he had made a name for himself in the industry. So everybody was looking forward to hearing from this man. And then they have this newbie. John, they have a fucking newbie, bro, that has not even worked. He's not an engineer, has never worked in renewable energy before. His background is fitness, and 2 days before the conference, I get told my boss has to leave town, and I get told I gotta take that spot. And my boss, fair to him, he tried his darndest to not let me take that hit.
Yeah.
He said, no, my second in command will do it. The CEO said, no, I don't think so. And then he says, okay, let this other person do it, which is one of the other senior managers and had been in the company for about 4 or 5 years. No, I don't think so. He said, what about your new guy? He's like, yeah, Kaye is he's about 2 months, 3 months in the business. Like, he's still super new. I think, we have more experienced people that will. He said, but you told me that he was going to be the face of energy and that this is why you brought him in. And it's like, yeah, but he's like, no, I want him in.
That's a lot.
Bro. So my boss calls me and he says, listen, I tried to shield you. I couldn't do it. You got to do it. Good luck. Literally hung up the phone.
So what's your next move? How do you prepare for that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I just, they sent me his slides. And, the way that he does his things are so different from the way I do my things. I'm dyslexic. He's a very logical person. He thinks, straight lines, and, I'm all over the shot, So I had to redo the slides in a way that I could read it, but it was being interfered with by people that thought this is, you're going to represent us. So everybody wanted hand.
Too many cooks.
Too many cooks.
Yeah.
Eventually, I did it how I wanted to do it. Prepped as much as I could over 2 days. I mean, I remember the last night. I probably slept maybe 2-3 hours maximum of the nerves that was in my body. But I remembered not to have coffee because when I have too much coffee, I go into jitterland.
Yeah.
And I
can't drink coffee.
Bro, I start forgetting shit. Thing I'm about to say because like you're just like your heart is too quick, right? So I was like, no coffee, just lots of water, power through it. And, you know, I started with a joke. And it landed.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah.
What was it?
So I said it wasn't like it was like an inside company joke. Yeah, it's an inside company joke. So it's not going to be funny here, but I said, listen, I just joined the company, and I'm like, you know, so I remember me joining the company. Now I'm talking to clients, and when I try and talk to customers, I don't know about you guys, but does anybody have a problem explaining Boogies? What is this company's name? And everybody started crying and laughing and stuff like that, right? So that was like, you know, it warmed them up to me.
Yeah. Because I guess when they all started, they probably had a very similar experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the core things is like, bring yourself to everybody's level, interact with them and make it relatable as quickly as you can in these types of conversations.
Yeah.
Especially when you're presenting to people. So, you know, so yeah, you know, that's I won them over with that. I presented well, you know, and boom, after that, the boss just my CEO pointed me every way.
Yeah.
It's like literally after
this guy,
like literally, like different divisions will call. It's like, oh, your boss can't do it. Kate, is Keith can't do it. Oh, can we get Kay? Can we get Kay instead? I'm like, for sake. You know, I'm like, Keith, I'm not getting paid to be everybody's poster boy. This is not how this is supposed to work. He's like, listen, you're a victim of your own success, you know. So, but I took it on, and you know, it eventually helped.
And how did you improve how did you see yourself improve as you kept doing the speaking engagements?
For me, it's anchors. You know, I still get butterflies and jitters like every time. But I anchor. I remember you're the one that did this. You did that event. You did this. I even bring in my boxing situations. I bring in the mornings I got up when I didn't want to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go for a run. I bring all those things into play, you know, saying, you did that.
So reminding yourself of things you overcome.
Yeah. Reminding myself that you did that. You are a motherfucking bad man. Get out there and do the shit, right? You know, and, you know, but also, again, this is not rocket science. It's preparation. You know, I prepare more. You know, the better I got at it, the more I did it, the more I started realizing, you know, my boss, no matter what he did, and he didn't tell me this, but I sort of saw it, again, looking at him and the way that he did things versus other people. But then also listening to people like Obama speak and some of the great speech orators and you know, that have come through, you know, is storytelling. How do you tell a story?
Story is so important.
It's so important.
And it's insane how underrated or overlooked the power of story is.
It's incredible.
Because it anchors the truth or whatever it is you're trying to connect with.
Yeah.
It anchors it in reality.
Yeah.
It makes it something people can connect with, even if it's a completely made up story.
100%.
It makes it real.
So real.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And because also you make it by bringing it into a story, you know, you make it so much more relatable to people. You make yourself so much more relatable to people. Sometimes you bring your vulnerability into that very quickly. You know, allows people to just relax in your presence and want to pay more attention, you know. So, you know, but I mean, I think there's a lot more people that have leaned into that sort of bringing your vulnerability out, you know, now than it used to be. Because
it's a lot more acceptable.
It's a lot more acceptable, you know. But I think naturally I always lean into that because I realized that I wasn't always going to be the smartest person in the room because I wasn't like, you know, this is something that these people have been doing for 20, 30 years. You know, they're chartered engineers. These are some of the smartest people our country has. Yeah. You know, some of the smartest people on the planet. I'm amazed by engineers and how their minds work.
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you get into a conversation with an engineer or a scientist or an inventor, I'm just in awe.
Bro,
and I love the way their minds work, because it's completely insane. Different to how mine works.
Me too, bro. 100%. You know, so I always said that to them. I always said, you know, when people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm here to just let the world know how amazing you guys are. That's my job. Like, you know, my job is to help this CEO, help this person recognize, invest, so that you guys can continue to do the work that you're doing in terms of helping our planet and doing these things, because it's not easy, right? You know, and so I recognize that, again, this is the dyslexia part of that process, where you have to adjust yourself to situations. So very quickly, I'm finding out how am I going to tell the story? What perspective am I going to come from with this? You know, that is akin to what I understand, my own wisdom, and how I can tell this story in authentically my position, rather than, you know, through any other person's lens.
Yeah.
But make it as relatable to a lot of people that might be also watching this but haven't heard it from this perspective. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, so
make it fresh.
Yeah, make it fresh. You know, but not because I'm trying to, you know, create something fresh. You know, it's like that's the intention.
Make energy sexy.
Yeah, make energy sexy. No, no, exactly. Because you can't make energy. You can to a certain extent, but yeah, you know, there are just certain aspects. I think for me, it's the humanity behind everything. You know, I like to connect everything back to that process. That is humanity. You know, there's this person. No matter how difficult you think this person is to get to know, he's a human being that's got a daughter and a family at home, and he's dedicating his life towards this. And ultimately, that respect and that appreciation for that dedication then becomes like, oh, wow, okay, you know, I get it. You know, I always, even when I did sort of commercial deals, you know, I mean, my boss brought me in to set up, you know, the first part of our business that directly dealt with private sector clients. At that point, we were super successful with sort of the government,
like public sector
and all of that stuff, but had no track record in the private sector. But, you know, I brought in the first 2 major private sector clients into the company, which is huge, right? You know, so, you know, for me, it was like, it's just that understanding that you have to, again, get back to the fundamentals. Even when I presented to those guys at the end of the day, you know, outside of all the numbers and all of that stuff, I always brought it back to trust. I always brought it back to, you know, this guy, you know, he works 90 hours a week, you know, he's first in, last out. This person that we brought in has been blah, 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 blah. So I bring all of their stories into focus. So the client sees them not only as the human beings that they are, but it also sees the hard work and the effort that they do in their day-to-day life. Individually in their day-to-day life, without the sort of accolade or, you know, or gold banner above them. And if that's the kind of person that you want working on your project, then you know that you're in good hands. Yeah. You know, so bam, they're like, love that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's once people connect with that, people make people. You know, that's the ultimate truth. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you know, we're doing this right now. Like, I was watching your podcast.
Yep.
I was watching your podcast.
I still find that weird to believe that other people were paying any attention to this.
Bro. And in a moment, I've shared that with every person in my community.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy, bro. And I'm one person. Like, I'm a very tiny percentage of the people that have gone ahead and done that and done that and done that and reshared that. After I shared it, 3 other people that are my friends in my social media, I saw it on their page, on their stories. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's just the power of, you know, people. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, right? You know, so you know, your ability, you know, you don't know it, but by giving this man and asking that kind of question that allowed him to open up in such a way that shared that, unlocked things for people. It definitely unlocked stuff for me. You know what I'm saying?
No, I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and opportunities come from that. So yeah, whoever's watching, if you're trying to, you know, I'm open for brand sponsorships.
This guy.
I'm kidding.
So actually, you've covered your energy world.
Yeah.
How did you end up starting your own business? Because that is quite a leap.
Yeah.
From, you know, you've built a brand for yourself in the fitness world.
Mm.
You've become the face of an energy company. Why do you start your own business, and why did you pick that particular business?
Yeah, man.
Because I think the idea behind it is genius. I was actually talking to two colleagues about it the other day, because it was two ladies talking about how much their hair costs, and I was like, let me tell you about a business I know. But so for people that don't know anything about Chop Chop, just give us a little breakdown on what the idea is, but also how you came up with it.
Yeah. You know, I can't take 100% credit for the idea, because I had a co-founder at the beginning who's no longer part of the business. You know, but Chop Chop in very simple terms is a completely inclusive hair care company. You know, and that's how you know, in the most simplest ways. And what does inclusion look like? What does it look like? It means that, you know, we don't discriminate against hair type. You know, so, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a story.
Let's go.
All right? 4 friends, 1 black, 1 white, 1 Asian, 1 orange like Donald Trump. These 4 friends, right, decide that they're going to go to the gym. They have different body types. One goes to Pilates, the other goes to Zumba, one goes to yoga, one hits the weights. They all have a good session. Great. You know what? We've just had a great session. We're hungry. Let's go get something to eat. They get to the restaurant. They sit down. One's a pescatarian, one's a vegan, one's, you know, carnivore, eats whatever. You know, they all sit down. They order something nice on the menu. Everybody gets fed. Everybody's happy. Now they're like, shit, actually, let's book, you know, we got this ticket, we're going out tonight, let's do it, we're all going out. You see what's happening there, there's one connected thread, which is the shared experience that they're all having regardless of where they are. Then they're like, it, let's go get our hair done. That's where, unfortunately, the journey, 9 times out of 10, is going to end. That shared experience cannot be replicated in a hair salon experience, because for whatever reason, whether or not it's their hair type or it's their gender. If you are a guy, you go into a barbershop, the girl you're with can't go with you, so she's going to have to go somewhere else. If you're with your white friend or your orange like Donald Trump friend, you know, he can't come with you because probably your Afro barber can cut him, and he can't take you to his place because his barber can't take care of you either. You know, so all of a sudden what we have is, you know, segregation, and we have gender-based pricing, and we have discrimination that lies in an industry that is supposed to be about the community first, to serve the community first. So, you know, for me, that was the moment that I realized that this is f***ed up, and
there's a big gap there.
There's a huge gap. Yeah, you know, and how do you create an experience that allows for that shared experience to continue in this space without discriminating against people, and allowing these friends, those 4 friends, to come through and pass through this as part of their shared experience. And that's really, you know, what I've tried to create with Chop Chop. You know, so yeah, I mean.
So that's the what it is.
Yes.
Why did you do it though?
Oh yeah. Well, part of why I did it was when I started looking into, I mean, the initial reason why we wanted to, like, it was myself, her name is Law, my friend Paul, which you know, we just, at some point, you know, back then we were all just used to have fun, man.
Yeah.
You know, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to tap into relationships. I wanted us, because I went on this trip to South Africa for my brother's birthday, and some of his boys showed up, and his boys showed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and these boys are boys that he's had since like college days and whatever. And they show up and they're all coined, you know, like they're fighting for bills. like, and we're not talking 3, 4, we're talking 4 or 5 grand on the table, and they're like, no, I got this. No, I got this, and one of them sneaks off and sorts it out.
So they're doing well.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
But how do they do well? Because my brother works in pharma. He's a private equity guy. This other guy works in hedge funds and stuff like that. The other guy is, is part of a brand. He owns a brand company and stuff like that. What they've done over the years is constantly work and help each other out through their medium, what investments to come in, what products, what pharmaceutical drugs might get FDA approval, that kind of stuff, and just worked with each other to help elevate each other up so that they all got the upside.
As a network.
Yeah. And I loved that. I was like, guys, we got to stop just partying with each other and start elevating each other. Yeah, start building shit because this is important. Anyway, so me, Law, and Paul got together and we used to talk about ideas, things that we could look into investing in. And the idea for Chop Chop, I invited Law to Shoreditch House for a gig, and she's an engineer. She hates anything to do with dressing up and making up and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like her happy place is in a hardware store. Right? Yeah. And so I said to her, listen, this is not your typical place, okay? This is like, and we're talking 2016 here, so Shoreditch House was
bougie then.
Bougie as right? So, so it's like, okay, cool. I'm like, make sure you come correct, She's like, all right, cool. So anyway, she tried to get her hair done after work, and she couldn't find a place. And there was only one place that she could go to, but it's like, I'm not going to call the brand, but it was like a dead brand. And she was like, listen, my standards are low, but that place, way too low. Like, I wasn't going to do that. So I was like, okay. So she came in, and I was like, what happened? And she was like, oh, yeah, she explained that. And I was like, is this a problem? And that was that was the moment that the seed was initially planted. Like, is this a problem? We should probably look into it at our next session. And then we started talking about it. So I was in charge of looking at, how we were going to look at, so we were doing some research around it, so qualitative and quantitative research. And, I was in charge of sort of looking at the breadth of the industry in terms of how we'd market it, what we'd think about, and, just smarts information that we could use to sort of make a brand differentiation. And the more I dug in, the more I realized just how much it discriminated against black people. For every 1,000 hair salons, only one of them caters to black people in the UK.
That's a crazy number.
Every 1,000, only one.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then I'm looking and I'm like, there are no fucking black successful brand owners even in this space. Yet, black women spend 3 times more per capita than white women on their hair. As brothers, we get our haircuts literally every 2 weeks.
Yeah, sometimes like every week at some point. Yeah, bro,
it's crazy. Yeah, at some point. Back in the day, it was a weekly thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, so are we not, so for me, it was just, it didn't make enough sense. From a black perspective, I wanted to be a part of a change. Understanding the gender disparity and all those things, I was like, yeah, and my co-founder was there and she's a woman. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. We can have a different conversation around this if we can do it differently. And that was the genesis, of why it started, where realizing when they say, when you unbox something, when you open the Pandora's box and you see what you see and you can't unsee what you see. You
can't put it back.
You can't put it back, So, for me, it was just like, all right, cool, let's go for it. And if it fails, it fails. But, we're going to go for it because, at the time, now renewable energy and sustainability is on everybody's list. But when I was doing it, it wasn't, right? So, I knew that, with the track record I had, I knew that I could go back into any company very quickly, and get myself a position, because I had already...
You'd laid a lot of groundwork.
I'd laid a lot of groundwork, So, 4 or 5 years or 3, 4 or 5 years in that space. and people could Google and actually search energy articles and see my name come in and stuff like that. So it was a different, and I worked at one of the biggest organizations. So startups would want to hire a person like me, right?
So you felt like you were in a position where you could take a risk.
Yeah, I could take a risk, bro. I thought I could take a risk, and there's nothing I do enjoy though. I think my happiest moments, and I'm sure that you're very similar because you're creative, is creating something that people engage and touch and connect with. There's nothing more exhilarating for me than that process of building something and then putting it out into the world and seeing
scary.
People. Yeah.
It is very rewarding. Like I was saying, I still find it weird when I put something out and then, like you said, other people see it or share it. Or someone will reference it. You're like, what? You did that. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. But understanding that process, what was the next step in actually, you've decided now, this is a business that I want to give it a go. You can afford to take a risk. How do you get started? Like, what's the process?
You got to put your money where your mouth is. Straight up. There's no easy way around it. I'm not a management consultant. I don't have a trust fund. I didn't come from private equity or investment background where I was going to raise capital.
Couldn't rely on daddy's money.
Yeah, couldn't rely on daddy's money. So, there we go. So you had to shut up and put your hand in your pocket. So was
that from savings?
From savings. So myself, my co-founder, and Paul, because Paul was going to be one of the founders. But he got an amazing opportunity to leave the country, and he took that opportunity. But he said, "Listen, Kaye, I believe in what this whole thing is about. I'm going to put some coin behind it."
Awesome.
So he put some coin behind it, which is great. So he was our first investor, as friends and family, and then we got Law's boyfriend invested in it as well, and then we took startup loan. We took a startup loan, but it was hard, man.
What was the process of getting a startup loan?
Yeah, you have to. There's a loan called the startup loan that you have to apply for. It's almost like a government-backed startup loan that it's not a lot of money. I think we got $15,000 at the time. But it allows you to, you have to put you have to have a business plan. So, very early, I think we were so far ahead when I realized, Jesus Christ, man, we had done so much work, bro, compared to people. I remember bringing in a management consultant company to look at, and prepare us for trying to raise investment. And they were like, Jesus.
You've done it.
Wow. Really, guys, wow. This is really impressive. The amount of companies that they see that haven't had no clue.
Why do you think you guys were so prepared?
Part of that was because I'd always worked in that sort of prepare, fail to plan to fail sort of mentality. It had been reinforced when I met my boss in terms of, again, everything that I was doing, work that I was putting in. Every time we had to present to a client, there'd be a lot of preparation that went into it to win these awards or to win this contracts or whatever. So, that structure, having a plan, putting it out on paper, putting it out, and then sort of talking through it was a clear way to sort of get your message without getting it fumbled or whatever.
Okay.
So that kind of...
So that gave you an advantage,
that background, 100%, I'm not going to lie. So we were able to work the numbers, do regression analysis because, Law's an engineer, Paul is an engineer, really good at math. Both of them know how to use Excel sheets very well. I'm great at sort of marketing and storytelling and stuff like that. But I believe I have the best taste out of everybody in the group, so in terms of the taste and how we were going to go about it and the branding and all of that stuff, positioning and stuff like that. I did that, but I also worked with a lot of friends that I knew that were in fashion or in branding and stuff like that. I'd ask them questions, I worked with celebrity stylists. I'd ask them questions and say, what do you think? How do we do this? How do we do that?
Yeah.
It was definitely very helpful being able to sort of, do the qualitative and quantitative research leading up to it, because it meant that the vast amount of work that we needed to do in terms of just understanding the market size, what was the gap that we were filling and why we would come in and fill it, me understanding and taking from the very personal perspective of, the fact that the Black story is not being told there, the gender discrimination is very rife in this industry, and, really set that as a why. I believe 100%. I think everything that I've done leading up to, this, I'm fundamentally motivated by the passion. I have to believe in the thing. I have to have a passion and believe that what I'm doing is going to bring some benefit, some good outside of myself, It's so much easier for me to be my most, I'm the best, I'm most passionate, and I'm able to get across an idea, and I'm able to get across things when I'm passionate about it and I get it and I deeply understand it and believe it. So, so for me it was just doing that work and when there's nothing that makes it more personal when you know that you're being discriminated against directly. Like, it's
you can take it literally personally.
Literally. I'm like, okay, let's feel it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, those are some of the things that I sort of did to sort of, help us position ourselves in the right way. Took some of that startup money as well as, the money that we had invested. And it's super important, because if you're talking to any investors and they ask you, how did you start up and you didn't have skin in the game? No, man.
They're not interested.
Yeah. Except you're a part of the, you came up the same way. You're a management consultant. You've done this for a few years. You've given companies money. You're venture capital. A lot of podcasts that I listen to, whether or not it's How I Built This or Masters of Scale or whatever, you're listening to a lot of people that have gone through the same passage to get to where they are.
Yeah.
There's rarely the conversation of people like me or other people that I know in my world that, that, didn't come through that.
You didn't have a background in that.
Didn't come through that, right? You know what I'm saying? And occasionally you'll hear some stories about certain people that did, but I take, they say, obviously, you sit on the shoulders of giants and you see a lot further. I'm not interested. Sometimes it's true. It's good for people to listen to me, but I'll give you dirt, like how to be scrappy with it. You know what I'm saying? But from the aspirational side, you need aspiration as well. So when I listen to a lot of these people, I know that there's not a lot of similarities, and a lot of them are white and and successful. I don't see a lot of similarities in our journey and how we got there, but I see that some of the challenges that they face as founders, regardless of when you start having employees and you start having customers and going through that, there are similar problems that you'll have, and those are problems that regardless of...
They're universal.
Yeah, they're universal, right? So that's what I'm tapping into, right? This is helping it's possible. This is what this is. This podcast, and
One of the things I wanted to ask, actually, and I'd like you to speak on, was the process of getting friends and the importance of getting friends to invest. Because I think you mentioned previously about how, we used to have a really good time and party together. We were spending a lot of money in clubs on other people's businesses, but we weren't spending that money on our own ideas and our own, benefiting our own futures, investing like your brother's friends. Could you speak on the importance and the process of getting friends to back your idea? I'd love more people to hear this, see the success of your business and think, I can back a friend's idea. Or maybe, how do I get my friends to believe in my idea enough to put their money where my mouth is?
Yeah. I mean, I think character is such an important thing. in all of these things.
One of the reasons why I really wanted to ask is people say never work with friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure there is issues with that.
It's true.
But
yeah.
friends saying, I'm going to put my hard-earned money into your business.
Yeah.
That's techie.
Yeah. When the idea of never work with friends I think is based on one where, I mean, Law was my colleague and my friend, and, one in two co-founders end their relationships end because the journey is hard.
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat it or anything like that. It is a grueling process. But I do believe that character is the most important thing in that situation, right? Your friends, I know, for example, if I ever had an important enough situation, client, where, there was work to be done and stuff like that, and, I need a digital agency, someone that's really good at this, that I can contact to help me do all of this work. I know that there are a handful of people I can call, even if they're my friends, that I know that take their shit super seriously and will execute because that's just who they are. It's not, regardless of whether or not it's me saying that, that's how they operate. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's important. You recognize your friends through the whole process as you're going through that journey. Who's like
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Who's about that life?
Who's about that life?
Yeah.
Who's ready to put in that work, those hours, that dedication and that devotion to that process, and has been doing it, even when you were like, okay, maybe I need to start mimicking my man because I see what he's doing and it's starting to work. So I need to focus my attention on my lane and start doing that, right? So I think that's one thing is your character is such an important aspect of what allows your friends in the first place to back you. But also I believe that not a lot of our friends have the capital in the first place to put it forward.
Unfortunately, not enough people save.
There we go, right? Which is true, right? Not enough people save. But one of the things that also is there's a literacy issue, right? In terms of how you can benefit from tax positions and things like that by doing certain things. Like, so for example, if you're earning up to $100,000 a year, right away you're earning up to $100,000 a year, 40% of that goes towards the government. Mm-hmm. That's 40% of your net income or your gross income that is now gone. So how can you sort of mitigate that? If you're earning that kind of money at the moment, even if you're earning up to $70,000 a year, you're still in that 40% bracket, period, right? You can ask yourself, right, rather than giving all this money to government, if you're putting some of this money away and stuff like that, and you have some savings, first of all, if you have money in your bank account, in your savings account, you're getting 0.1% or 0.34% in interest.
Almost minus. If you account for inflation,
if you account
you're
for inflation,
losing money.
You're losing money, exactly. These banks are making double digits on your money and paying you peanuts compared to what they're earning. So that's one thing when you recognize that. The second thing is, it's like, okay, what are the incentives, the government incentives out there? Because the UK, we're in a very difficult situation. So, there's rebates and things like that the government has put that allows individuals and businesses to invest in businesses to help the startup world and create these types of things. So there's things like SEIS and EIS. One of the things that my friend benefited from was that he was able to take some of the SEIS that we had sort of gotten, and that meant that even though he invested 10 grand at the time, 5 grand of that he got back against his deductible taxes for the next financial year.
Fair.
So literally his investment was 50%. Because he already got 50% back in taxes that he would have otherwise paid.
Just given away to
tax. To the government, right? To tax, right? So that's money back in your pocket that's tax-free, right? Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And and if the business fails, the other 50% you get back. Okay? So if the business fails on the SEIS, you get back. If it's the EIS, you get 30% against your deductible taxes, right? So again, there are ways to look at it and say, okay, well, how can I benefit from this situation, and de-risk it for myself and thinking about those types of things. And I think those are some of the small sort of things that that we need to sort of look at within our own network, within our community, recognizing obviously, yes, first of all, not a lot of our friends, and I think part of that is just the fact that we didn't pay attention early enough, to what was happening.
Yeah.
If we had done that earlier, I'm sure we would be, so much further ahead in terms of because we were all super smart, successful in our own lane, doing what we were doing. Bro, I'm thinking back right now, I'm like, I was earning 50 G's in 2019.
It's really good money.
Like in 2018, I was on the radio on 50 G's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so what did I do? What did I do with that coin?
Yeah.
Like really though, like luckily I had enough, I'd saved enough that helped towards me investing back into my company as part of the startup capital that we needed, that we all had to commit to, But I can't get the SEIS because I'm the business founder, so I don't get that.
Yeah.
So I have to take
all the risk is yours.
Yeah, exactly, right. But yeah, so and I think and I'm lucky because even the investors that came. So shortly after in 2018 we launched the brand. 2019 we raised investment and raised about $250,000, and that was, I'm very proud to say that 90% or 80% of the people that invested were black. But these were high net worth individuals, that work in investment banking, doctors, four of them work in investment, 3 of them work in investment banking. One is a doctor and one is a startup founder herself, right? So,
Can I just interrupt there? How? Because I hear people say this a lot. I did a round of investing. I'm really financially illiterate.
Yeah.
I admit, hands up.
Yeah.
Money turns my brain off.
Yeah.
But I hear people say that.
You're super creative. That's why.
Probably.
Yeah.
I hear people say that all the time. I did a round of investment. What is a round of investment? What's the process? Where do you do a round of investment? How does it start? How does it end?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What is the process?
Yeah. It's a tough.
Because there's a phrase people say a lot, and I actually don't know what it means.
Raising investment. I mean, it's a lot harder now because the tap is closed, like 100%. And, just to give you a real statistic before we move on again, in the last 10 years, only 1% of the total investment that venture funds poured into the country, which is billions, only 1% of that went to black founders.
Wow.
There's this luck that has a big part to play in it as well. But the question of fundraising and stuff like that, that's all based on, again, once you understand your business, I think the core thing that investors look for, and having gone through a difficult challenge with my co-founder and her exit in the business, is they invest in you, that the person that they met, and ultimately, does this person have the grit and the tenacity and the endurance to get this across the line? But also, are they able to attract people into their business? The core things, okay, and then we can bring in advisors and stuff like that to help sort of bridge the areas where they might be weak at, whether or not it's financial, whether or not it's this, whether or not it's that. When you throw yourself into the startup game, into the startup world, you have, there's a lot that you're learning on the job, which is, again, that's one of the reasons why as hard as it is, I love the learning, like the growth in terms of what I know and how I've been able to sort of adapt and adjust and do things, has been exponential. There's literally no job I could have done in 5 years that would have given me the amount of knowledge and know-how that I carry today.
And what are some of the good resources? Because you mentioned, those funds that you can take advantage of that can offset your tax against. What is a good place to look for that kind of information? Because, most people probably wouldn't even know where to start.
If you just put in startup funding, Typically what you see is, things like crowdfunding companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Kickstarter.
Yeah,
and all
Kickstarter and things like that. But, avoid those things and go straight into like the government-backed sort of schemes.
Yeah.
Those are good. They're government-backed loan companies or companies that can give you loans at a lower sort of interest rates and stuff like that. Not a lot of capital, but small enough of capital. That mean that you can get some small capital to start you off with and things like that. But ultimately, I think it's the resource. Your resource is your network. People have said that before. I'm not the first person that said it, but your network is your net worth. I'm super grateful that at least one of my friends was able to say, here's some coin. But that coin that he gave, bought us 6 months, right? Bought the company 6 months of runway. You know what I'm saying? 6 months is, in startup land, is like you just got like 2 years, especially when you're scrappy and, you're trying to make it work. So for me, is really focusing on spending a lot of time as you're in that world, sort of understanding how you're going to grow your own network within that space, right? And start connecting with like-minded people, not people that are talking about doing it, but the people that are actually doing the thing, right? I got no time, bro. Zero time for talking about doing shit.
Yeah.
Cool. You're talking about it. Hit me up when you've actually put something down. Invite me to that thing.
Yeah.
Then we can sort of talk about how you can elevate, because I find that you talk a lot. People talk. I'm a completer finisher. Let's get to it. Growing your network. Because I'll give you an example. One of the reasons, one of the ways that I ended up finding those investors that ended up, I worked with a large accounting firm to help us try to raise capital. And they had apparently a network of investors and stuff like that that they could tap us into. And we paid some money towards, creating an executive summary, that was, whatever. But it was important for us to understand that you need an executive summary so that you can actually, sometimes when you're sending lots of information to lots of different investors, you need something that they can bite-size, that they can take. That summarizes your business, where you're going, where you started, what is your market, what's the size of your market, what are you going to, how you thinking about exiting the business, all of that kind of stuff, right? So at a level, you get all that intel, or at least they structure it in a way that allows you to understand it, although we had already built a lot of that stuff. But then they weren't able to actually bring any investors to the table, right? I happened to be out. And because I was so focused on using technology to start this company, I was like, there's no way I'm going to start this company. It's like, everybody was like, Kaye, why are you so adamant about having technology? I'm like, because we're going to be a technology-led company or a technology-friendly company or whatever the situation, but we have to lean into tech from the get-go. So, and that was part of the benefit of, I guess, doing qualitative and quantitative research, because you're able to sort of see all the trends and listen to the trends and then lean into like, okay, what's relevant right now?
What are people looking at? What are people talking about?
What people are looking at? So your job ultimately as a founder is to kind of sense, where the climate is. What's the weather going to be like? Do I wear a jacket today? Do I not wear a jacket? Do I take a scarf out? Do I not take a scarf out? Whatever the situation is. So you have to get good at reading situations and then sort of trying to adapt and apply those. So very quickly, I go out and I'm out and talking about tech really going into the deep dive of understanding how I'm going to look at, I was talking about things like virtual queue systems at the time. I was really keen about, as soon as augmented reality is available for people to be able to try haircuts and stuff like that, we want to be a part of it.
That'd be
all
interesting.
of that. Yeah, right? All of these types of things. Like, I was talking about this shit. I was talking about this shit in 2018, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yes, let's do this. And the next thing, I know is that I'm out with a girl I'm dating at the time, and we're out and we're sat next to two women, and they just look at us and they say, "Oh my God, like wow, you guys are such a beautiful couple." It's like, "Oh, thank you." Anyway, we just start chatting randomly, and so they say, "Listen, by the way, we are just about to launch an app. The app is directed directly to Black people, and we'd love to find out what your thoughts are about this." And so a girl I'm dating at the time says, "Oh my God, like Kaye's building an app. It's just built an app because I just worked with the company to build out Chop, the app that we were going to use, white label it and bring in some new features that we really needed, that I felt like we needed to launch the company with." So they were like, "Oh, really?" So very quickly, I was able to just talk to them about some of this stuff. Okay, great. Why is that? I went to the app. I asked them different questions. And it's like, "So what is your app about?" And I told them about the company. It's like, "Oh my God, that's incredible. Like, this is really great. Like, let's connect on LinkedIn." I was like, "Cool, let's do that." We connected on LinkedIn. I was like, 3-4 weeks later, I was like, "How's the app going? Keep me updated if you need any advice, if you need anything." Just pure, like nothing. And she was like, "Yeah, cool. You know what? Funny. I'm so glad that you got in touch. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my friend, and, like we sit in amongst a group of other Black people that are high net worth individuals, looking at the beauty sector as an industry where we wanted to, where some of them were thinking about making some investments. Are you looking for capital?"
Hello.
The rest is history, bro.
That's crazy.
The rest is history, right? So that situation, now, those people that I know, and some of them are big deals in sort of in the investment world. I nurture those relationships, and when the time comes, it's not, for me, having their names as they continue to, and this is so important, by association. It's so funny back in the day when people used to say, "Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are."
Yeah.
Like, you look at that and you just thought about, okay, I mean, parents used to use it back then, was like, if you're rolling with a bad friend, that's what's going to happen. The fundamentals.
The influences.
The influences. But there's such a thing as brand cachet. Mm-hmm. Now, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. When you're now in business, it's so much more even critical. The names that you have on your investment board allow whether or not that person that looks in is going to say, "Yeah, I'm going to invest." If they find out that, "Oh shit, this partner at Goldman Sachs is invested in your company," all right, must be a smart business.
Yeah.
All right, if he's willing to take the risk and he's one of the smartest people I know in the room, why the shouldn't I? There we go. So now you have to start thinking about association. Yeah. Who you're going to associate your business with and your brand and stuff like that, right? So
I guess that definitely goes both ways. If you've got someone who doesn't have such great associations, then even if they've got the money, it may not be smart having that person
100%. Like
involved.
100%. I would rather always, 99% of the time, always rather go with a person that I know has the ability to bring in more as a wider pool. So whether or not it's more marketing, more investors, more as you're scaling, then bring in a person that just says, "Listen, I've just come into some cash. I'd like to invest in your business." Don't get me wrong. I gave you those stats, 1%. But at the same time, you have to think strategically. For me, and different strokes for different folks. I would never. Like, if a person's willing to give you money and the terms are fair and you understand that and you've gone through, and, you're asking me questions about how investments, there's, you have to, the term sheets are very, you have to look at that. There's a valuation. How much is the business valued at? What are you going to sell at? What is the potential compound interest that you're going to get on that investment? When are you going to raise the next fund, and how much would the share value have been at that point when you try and raise again? All of those things, are part of the things that you use to define where your company is located in terms of valuation, and how how you chop up the negotiations. But, for me, I'm trying to build a brand. If you're trying to build a small business, who gives a f?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Get the cash where you can.
Get the cash where you can, as long as it's
legal and ethical.
Exactly, legal and ethical. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to build a brand and you're trying to scale, because at some point you will get to a situation where if you have too many small investors and too much noise, a big investor that might want to come in might just look at that and say, "This is too noisy. Messy, I don't want a part of it." So. Again, when you're thinking about that process, you have to make strategic decisions, not because you're desperate today. You have to think about where are we going in the long term, and how can I sort of make this sort of work, in the short term, thinking about maybe other sort of avenues to generate revenue or to bring that income down or whatever the situation. But, like I said, the core thing is that for me, the fundamental difference is the brand story. And the brand that I'm trying to build is the core thing that allows me and centers my focus on where I get my money from.
So you're at 4 stores now.
Yeah.
You opened the newest one in Cold Drops Lane?
Yes.
Was it called Cold Drop Lane?
Yeah, it's yeah.
In King's Cross.
No. Sorry, no. In Camden Market.
Camden Market is the newest one.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
What has been some of the hardest challenges you faced growing that business to 4 physical spaces now?
Yeah, I mean, it should have been 5. I had to close the store down during the pandemic.
Of course,
yeah. So I had a store in Westfield and Shepherd's Bush. We had to close that down because, the part of the mall where we were was already struggling prior to the pandemic. And it just became more and more difficult to sort of justify. Having the store there for the sake of turnover versus actually profitability. You had to make a call and make that decision swift. So it's never easy closing a store down, because every store that you open is like your baby, and you're like, oh man, this is another step.
It feels like a step forward.
Yeah, it feels like a step forward, and then you got to take a step back. You're like, that's. I've leaned into this concept of things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Mentality, and asking myself, okay, right, this has happened. Why has it happened? What lesson am I supposed to learn from this process? And then, as much as I can, lean into that and then sort of move on with it, right? But, that was hard. Closing the store was hard. Losing my co-founder was hard, because it's always easier to do a job when there's more of you on the table trying to take different pieces of the work that's needed to make it successful. And I had to learn a lot that she used to do because she was no longer there. So I had to take on all of those responsibilities and on top of my responsibilities, which, was a lot even for me at the time. So now, as the businesses continue to scale, I'm like, holy shit, but, you're figuring out more and more ways, trusting people, hiring the right people, which, again, is a very difficult time because of the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, Brexit, and what that's done on the labor market and the impact and the opportunity for Europeans to come into the country and actually work in the UK. So you're fighting for a smaller pool of talent, but the truth is there are a lot of businesses that shouldn't be in business in the first place, and the market will work itself out. Businesses will fail, those people will become available, and the world will continue. So it's savage, but it is what it is.
It's true. Mm. And what have been some of your biggest wins in this process, and what have you really enjoyed about growing Chop Chop into what it's become?
Bro, I'll be honest with you. The simplest, the smallest things are the things that bring me joy. The thing that I do, I'm motivated purely. I do things for scale reasons because I want maximum impact, and I'm led by things that I feel like I can have a passion about, and I can genuinely bring people value. And one of the moments, I've had lots of these moments, but there's a moment where a mom came into the store with a white mother came into the store with her mixed daughter, and they both got their hair done and stuff like that. On the way out, the mom was just so happy with her daughter's hair, and they were both so happy. And she was like, oh my God, and she told one of my stylists, is like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I don't know why this hadn't been here before. And please thank your founder, whoever founded this business. And he's like, oh, there he is. I was outside the store. And she came and she was like, listen, hi, introduce herself. And I just really wanted to thank you. This is the first time my daughter and I have ever had this experience together, because I'm not able to take her to my traditional hair salons because she's mixed and they don't know how to deal with her hair type. And I can't, when I go to her Afro place and stuff like that, they don't necessarily know how to take care of my hair, and whatever the situation. So this is great that we've been able to both have this. So for me,
that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that very point where, I'm seeing the thing that I created do its job, what it was designed, why it exists. I so lean into the why so much more, but Chop Chop had always been a purpose-built business, because I'm not a barber, I'm not a hairdresser.
You're a fitness guy.
Yeah, I'm a BD guy. I'm a everything, right? So for me, I had to come into this. If I wasn't going to go into this knowing that I could make some kind of impact or change something, and it wasn't an industry that I was passionate about, but I was definitely passionate about the fact that my people were being discriminated against. And I was definitely passionate about realizing and recognizing that, for my co-founder, who was a woman.
Yeah, women having to pay much more than men for haircuts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
But I was also, also being, from a sustainability perspective, realizing that there was so much waste that was happening in the industry. And I could bring some of the smarts that I've learned from working with big companies, because I know big companies won't touch smaller businesses when it comes to sustainability, because there's too much noise, there's too much small footprints. But those small footprints actually add up to quite a large amount of carbon and negative footprint. So that's one of the things that I enjoy the most. But also now I mentor other salon business owners, thinking about their why, fundamentally getting down to the crux of it and how they can start to make their businesses a lot more sustainable, a lot more inclusive. Before the Black Lives Matter movement and the whole of that stuff, our slogan was no gender, no texture, just hair. People who used to walk and take pictures all the time of that slogan. It was our Nike, just do it. But it was a statement of intent.
Can you just say it again for the people in the back?
No gender, no texture, just hair.
It's perfect.
Right. So for us, it was just about, we're just here to, work on your hair, make you feel fabulous, and that's the core thing. So understanding that why, and ultimately what the benefits associated to that why was going to become. Very quickly, I start to see businesses, when we started, they now started saying, we don't have gender price-based pricing, and because every magazine published, is Chop Chop, is this the future of hairdressing?
The Prime Minister came through.
The Prime Minister came through, facts. Rishi Sunak was there.
What was that about?
Yeah, bro, he had to come in. He heard so much. No,
That's wild.
But the wonderful thing is that the way that situation happened is, I honestly. But this is exactly what I say, that sometimes you do good work and you do purposeful work, and it comes back. Honestly, when you fundamentally do things that are right and moving in the right direction, but you're also being, so don't get me wrong, I'm not I'm not an evangelical person trying to push this agenda for no reason. I want a profitable business. I run a profitable business. That's important to me, right? I'm focused on my team's sort of outputs. I'm focused on our P&L. I do all the core things that a successful business needs to do. But I also understand fundamentally that, doing the right thing and having a successful business are not two different things. Those things can and should live in a symbiotic relationship. That means that, yes, they coexist perfectly. And that is a thing that brings people. That's the thing that brings brands. I spoke on the same stage as Sir Reynold Fiennes at Oxford University, next to, some of the most important people, educators and investors, in the country. And I held my own on a stage, And
you're saying that comes from doing the right thing?
That comes from fundamentally doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying? But yes, being successful at it. So for me, it's like having those moments where whenever you feel like you're going to move off track because everybody has an opinion. That's one thing you'll realize is that, everybody will tell you. I have people that just joined my company to sit me down just because I give them, tell me a little bit, what do you think we can, and, they start to tell me things that they think I should do with the business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And you'll get that. Even some of my investors, now, when I was telling them we need to focus on tech super early, I was like, let's get into this game. Let's really, really try and get into this game. They told me, no, let's just focus on this bit. I said, you know what? I'm not gonna fight this. Usually I'd fight everything, but I learned that.
How do you know when to pick the battles and when not to then?
Yeah, it's fundamentally as long as because nobody understands fully, as long as you're not making a irrational decision that's going to ultimately hurt your business.
Yeah.
That means cause the collapse of your business. You have to make sure that you're thinking and you're going to introduce this in as lean a way as possible if you don't have the crazy capital to move into it with whatever, right? But they invested in you. So as much as important for you to hear in the areas where the experts are, maybe numbers, maybe if you fall out of this place,
whatever,
logistics, how you're going to bring this in, and it's good. It's good to have your ideas stress tested because you start to believe your own Kool-Aid. Drink your own Kool-Aid.
That's easy, yeah.
Yeah, man. So but if you deeply believe something and you think, that's where I need to go. I promise you, if I had leaned in and some of the things I had said to them, if they had done that pre-pandemic, Chop Chop right now would have probably been top 3 in the country in terms of as a brand in the industry. No, not even top 3, top 2, 100%. That's how confident I am that it would have gone like this, boom, right? And they looked at it and they said, hands up, facts.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about this. You were saying we need to lean into this, right? But you're not a tech guy, but I'm not a barber. I did that though. You don't need to be, we now know more than ever before. I don't need to be the person. I could be the architect and I can get the builders to come in and do the work, but I can, it's my job to do some of those research and understand that path and then take it forward. But you invested in me, so trust me. And that's where you start to lean into your confidence more as a founder, as a CEO, as the leader of your organization, to be like, they invested in me. I really believe that this is the process. And don't get me wrong. If you fail,
it's on you.
It's on you, but you failed. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'd much, and it's something that I did, I studied psychology at university. One of the things that we looked
That's
at.
That's why you're great at this questions and sitting back and no, it's good.
But one of the studies that I really, really loved, where they looked at regret in older people, asking them in their later years and some people on their deathbeds, what are the things they regretted the most about their lives? Interestingly, across the board, the things people regretted wasn't the things that they did, it was the things that they didn't do. No one, there's things that I've done now that I'm ashamed of, and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? But I won't be thinking about that when I'm 85. I'll be thinking about the things I didn't get around to, the things I dreamt of that I just never really believed in enough. That's the stuff I'll regret.
Yes.
Knowing that and studying that was one of the things that always kind of gave me a little push when I wasn't sure. I wanted to start a podcast before podcasts were a thing. I always loved the radio. Part of the reason why I even studied psychology, I wanted to be the Black Fraser Crane.
Love that.
That was my childhood dream.
I love that. Did you actually even watch? I love Fraser.
That was my childhood dream.
Yeah.
But imagine if I hadn't waited for podcasts to become a thing, if I just started recording conversations.
By now.
Where would I be now? That's a good 25 years ago. I could have started something.
Mate.
Which would be huge, but then you don't think about it now because I've started it.
Yeah.
Another one of the things that kind of put me off starting was I didn't have the right lighting, I didn't have the right microphones, I didn't have the cameras.
All excuses.
They're all excuses. And if you go back and watch the first episode, I don't like the sound is terrible, the lighting isn't good enough, but it gets better.
Bro.
One of the things I always try and tell people is I think people like to see your progress. I think that's also part of it.
I love that, bro.
Yeah.
You
want to be a day one.
Yes.
You don't want to come in and everything's all shiny and new.
Yes. There's a reason why people love certain musicians and artists and follow them and they have a cult, because if you were there at the Genesis, when there was 5 people in the room, 10 people when they were gigging, and you bought those tickets and you did those things, and you see where they've become and they're selling out stadiums and shit like that.
Yeah.
You were part of that process. One way you almost feel like you were part of the responsibility for that success. That
you are 100%.
100%. That's number one. Number two, you're able to share that sort of genesis and that story, which is something that you have with that artist. I have people. That's one of the things, on our social media, for example, my social. Oh yeah, your brand. You need to make it a lot more of this. You need to make it a lot more of that. And I'm like, I get it. I get all the brands that really spend their money really curating a clear aesthetic and doing that. But actually,
that's not your brand.
That's not my brand, though. And I'm like, and I do want people to recognize themselves, go back and see, wow, this is what they used to be. This is when they had a pop-up in Old Street.
Yeah.
This is
in the underground station.
In the underground station, right? This is where they popped up, and had a shop that only had 3 chairs and was right next to a kebab store. This is it's the
same chop chop.
It's the same chop chop, right? This is before they had the clear sort of interior design direction, and we can see the evolution and the maturity of the brand through the process. So for me, it's like, I love that. I love that point because, there's a beauty in that process. And it's so important for you, it's so important for the team. I have monthly meetings with my team, and, I let them know, I'm like, guys, just so we understand, and I'm very honest about it. I say, not everybody's supposed to be here forever. I don't want you all. If you ever stop learning or feel like you're growing or whatever the situation, you need to pack your bags and leave here, straight up, with my blessing. I take them back and I say, this is where we started. This is how we started. Look at where we are now. And I'm so excited to see where we're going to be in another 5 years, because it's going to be mental, right? So for me, it's like that sort of journey is such a beautiful thing for me to sort of go back to. And it's important for myself as well to just remind myself.
Well, I mean, that comes back to your point. The point that you made earlier, where you said when you were doing your speaking engagements and trying to build your confidence, you have to remind yourself of the things you did do. The things you overcame to get to this stage.
Oh, man.
I think that's so important to remember.
Yeah.
I've been through worse than this current challenge.
Yeah. How did I survive that? Yeah, exactly.
I think we do forget. It's easy to forget because you get onto the next task and it's gone. You kind of overcome it and you've forgotten.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to look back on those things. I do occasionally look at some of my early photography. I look back at like, oh my God. I remember I was lying in the floor in like pigeon shit to get that particular shot.
Wow.
And at the time, this was not glamorous.
Yeah.
But it's what I was willing to do to get that shot. And sometimes now I'm like, oh, the light's not right. Shut up. You've got lights.
Yeah.
I didn't have lights back then. And I was still getting paid.
Yeah, and you were still getting paid, bro. So you were actually getting paid.
So that's where the scale comes from, right?
Yeah.
This looking at the things you can add once you do have.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite easy to forget where you came from.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. That's another thing. It's just gratitude. I try to practice it every morning while I'm walking to the station. Just give, no matter how tough the day ahead is looking or whatever the situation, I just like, you know what? Bro, don't even complain, man.
Have a word with yourself.
Have a word with yourself, Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, like I say, I think the thing I worry about, the thing you concern yourself more about at this point is just your ability to sort of get more and more and more precise at delegating and prioritizing, that window, because the more you scale, the more you do stuff, the more stuff happens, the more people want like your attention, the more you need to do more stuff. And you have to prioritize yourself, and you have to prioritize why, like what, if I do this versus this,
what's the cost?
What's the cost?
Yeah.
And you have to get into that sort of level of objectivity, right? Rather than trying to, say yes to everything and stuff like that, and just be like, actually, no, But also just recognize, for founders, it's like, if you're not there, the business doesn't go on. So you gotta, if you don't stop to do you and just recalibrate, if you tap out, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody loses. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, I need to respond to this. I'm like, actually,
take some time.
Yeah, take some time, bro. Like, I might apologize. I might be unapologetic, about the process, but that is ultimately what is necessary for you to continue to be your optimum, because everybody benefits when you are at your optimum.
Actually, my mum used to say something like that. Like she had to be selfish because making sure that she was taken care of allowed her to take care of me.
Exactly.
And then, that definitely, I think about that a lot as someone who has people that works with them. If I don't bring in any business, then there's nothing to give to anyone else.
Facts, bro. No, seriously.
It's pressure, though.
It's pressure. Yeah. But people forget that, and people take it for granted. People forget that, and people take it for granted because it seems so easy. But this is, again, the light switch situation. You come in and you switch on the lights, and lights is on. You don't know how it got there, but you're like, shit, I don't know, I don't care. Yeah. When you don't have it, then you're like, holy shit, oh my God, how do I get light? And then you got to figure out how to fucking get light, and then you fucking figure it. Then you realize how tough that shit is, right? That definitely taking care of self, unapologetically so that everybody else can continue to benefit from, the success and the ability to put food on the table, and these are super important. But for us as friends and as people that we've known each other for such a long time, is, I just, I'm super excited about everybody's journey.
Just to wrap, Where is it going? What's next for you?
What's next for John? I mean, what's the diary of the CEO? This is going to be, are you trying to eclipse that?
Nah. I mean, Steven's got his own thing. It's a very, very different style. Of show to mine.
Of course. Yeah.
I love that he's made that kind of a conversational format palatable. Because I guess Rogan did it to an extent where before Rogan, people weren't listening to a 2-3 hour conversation. They just weren't. Whereas now, people will put it on at the gym, put it on while they're working, put it on the way to work, on a flight sometimes. And I think it's really cool to just feel like you're in the room with two people who are interested in each other and in each other's journeys. And so I love that Steven's kind of taken that to a different level with what he's done. I don't know. I don't really have a plan for where I want this to go. I just love that I'm able to have these conversations because I'm a curious person.
I love that.
So I just want to have more. I always want to know. So the next guest on this show, again, will be someone else who I'm interested in, and I want to know how they got to where they are.
I love that.
What inspired them, what challenges they face. So just more. Thank you, Kaye. Thank you guys for listening and watching. I still find it unbelievable that anyone does listen to the show. So everyone who does listen, I appreciate all of your support, your feedback, your comments on the YouTube, your comments on the Instagram. Thank you so much. Kaye, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes. www.chopchoplondon.com. That's the company website. At ChopChopLDN is the company social media. I'm at Kaye Sotomi, so KAYESOTS. Thank you, John, for having me.
It's an absolute honor.
This is dope.
If you guys have any comments or questions, please put them in the section below. We'll try and answer them. If you ask questions for Kaye, I'll just ask him. He'll tell me and I'll put it in the comments. But yeah, please subscribe, tell a friend, share the podcast. I really appreciate all of those shares. It means a lot and it helps grow the channel and it makes me want to do more content. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you all in the next episode. And I don't know where the idea came from specifically, but I was like, we are devoted creatives. We're creative and we're devoted to that pursuit. And that was the idea behind the company name. And then I guess doing the podcast came out of the fact that I wanted to tell as many of our stories as possible.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who make stuff have so many different paths into it.
Yeah.
And other people might have creative energy, but they've never pursued it. And so I really wanted other people who are either in our world and maybe need a push or some inspiration, or people who want to be in our world and don't work in this world. I want them to be able to see this and be like, oh, I could try that.
Yeah.
With a bit of hard work, some luck, and some consistency, anyone can do something creative. That it doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world. But it might be something that means something to you and impacts the people around you immediately. And that was the thinking behind it. So, yeah.
Love that. Absolutely love that.
Kaye, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you. You are the man.
Man.
That camera's still on. Main camera's gone off, so I have to sign out with this one, which I never do. This is like the first time ever. I'm going to have to split screen this so you can see both of us.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for listening and watching and for your continued support. We've had a lot of new followers in the past month, which I'm super grateful for all of you guys. I find it hard to believe that anyone listens to this show.